My name is Dr. Wortman, and I'm a practicing physician. I do general medicine, and I have a special interest in nutrition. I use a ketogenic diet with many of my patients. Like virtually all other doctors, I had very little training in nutrition. However, I was well trained in the management of diabetes, so it came as a shock to me 12 and a half years ago when I developed a florid case of type 2 diabetes. Having no training in nutrition, I still realized that carbohydrates are what make your blood sugar go too high. And I, at that time, felt I needed a little time to decide how I was going to manage my diabetes, so I stopped eating carbohydrates, simply to keep my blood sugars in check while I figured out basically which drug to take. And so I literally stumbled into low-carb dieting, knowing very little about dieting or nutrition, certainly nothing about low-carb dieting at the time. But I quickly discovered that all my symptoms and signs of diabetes disappeared, and that I started losing weight at about 1 pound a day, which went on for about a month. And during that time, I was so impressed at my recovery from the problems I've been having with diabetes, and the fact that I had normalized my blood sugar with this very low-carb diet approach, that I became very interested in this and started looking into the research and eventually got involved in the research looking at this type of diet. And when I figured out that this low-carb diet basically cured my own diabetes, I got interested in how that would affect the people that I served in the position I was working in. And I started looking into things like what had their traditional diet looked like. And it became very obvious that the traditional diets, virtually everywhere you looked, was a diet very low in carbohydrates. And I was on the West Coast, so the diet was seafood and wild game and maybe berries in season, but very little in the way of starch and sugar. And so I became intrigued with this idea that maybe we could reverse these epidemics by reversing the change in diet, because these populations were eating a very poor quality diet full of high carbohydrate foods, refined carbohydrates, sugary type of foods, and they were suffering tremendously from this. So I approached a small community. I was able to get funding from Health Canada, and we put together a research project where we took First Nations people and put them back on a diet that was modeled on their traditional diet. They could eat all their traditional foods, but they could add in market foods that were low in starch and sugar. And we did this project the diet was designed to run for 12 months. We followed individuals for 12 months. And the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation became interested in this and made a documentary film as we conducted the research project. And it was broadcast as, the title was My Big Fat Diet. And it's a very well told, very lovely story of people in this small community and their struggle with weight and diabetes and how things improved dramatically when they went on this diet that very much resembled their traditional diet.